Audiobook, your life changes after you learn this negotiation skill. Never split the difference. I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. Please share comments and subscribe to our channels and contents. Thanks again. Let's get into the audiobook. Negotiation is not about winning. It is not about overpowering someone. It is not about being the loudest voice or the most aggressive person in the room. Negotiation is about understanding human behavior. It is about reading emotion. It is about connection. It is about guiding someone toward an outcome without forcing them into it. This is the core lesson of Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, the former FBI hostage negotiator who spent years negotiating in life and death situations where compromise was not an option. In this audiobook, we explore the biggest lessons from the book, the strategies, the mindset shifts, and the psychological principles that make you a stronger communicator, a better negotiator, and someone who can influence outcomes with calm confidence. Negotiation is everywhere. It happens at work, in relationships, in money, in decision-making, in conflict, in sales, in parenting, in partnerships. Every conversation with another human being involves negotiation. And when you understand the emotional language of negotiation, your life becomes easier. You stop fighting. You start listening. You stop trying to win arguments. And you start creating cooperation. The first major lesson from Never Split the Difference is this: negotiation is not rational. People are not moved by logic. They are moved by emotion. When Chris Voss was negotiating with kidnappers, terrorists, or criminals holding hostages, he quickly realized something powerful people make decisions based on feelings, then justify those decisions with logic later. So if you want influence, you must understand emotion first. You must learn to listen deeply. You must hear what is not being said. This is the foundation of tactical empathy. Tactical empathy is not about agreeing with someone or approving their behavior. It is about understanding their perspective so well that they relax, open up, and trust you. When someone feels understood, they stop fighting. They stop resisting. They feel safe enough to consider your ideas. This is why empathy is not weakness. It is a powerful negotiation tool that disarms tension. You practice tactical empathy by slowing down and listening with your full attention. Listening without trying to fix, argue, or jump in. Listening not to respond, but to understand. When someone feels you truly get them, the negotiation shifts in your favor. The next lesson is mirroring. Mirroring is one of the simplest but most effective communication tools in negotiation. It works because it triggers the other person to keep talking, to reveal more information, and to show what they really want. Mirroring means repeating the last few important words the other person said, using their tone. It sounds simple, but it makes the other person feel heard. It invites them to explain. It keeps the conversation going. And the more someone talks, the more information they reveal information you can use. Another powerful tool is labeling. Labeling is identifying the emotion or tension in the conversation and gently naming it. You might say, "It seems like you're frustrated," or "It sounds like you're worried about something," or "It looks like this deal doesn't feel fair to you." When you name someone's emotion, it helps them feel recognized. The emotional pressure drops. They stop resisting. They start cooperating. Labeling shows them you are attuned to what they feel, and that increases connection. One of the biggest psychological insights in the book is that people want to feel in control. They want to feel like the decision is theirs. Negotiators often push too hard, trying to force an outcome, but that creates defensiveness. Instead, Chris Voss teaches the power of calibrated questions, open-ended questions that start with how and what. Questions like, how am I supposed to do that? What about this is most important to you? What problem are we really trying to solve here? How can we work toward a solution that satisfies both of us? Calibrated questions invite the other person to think. They feel respected. They feel like they are part of the solution. And because they are involved, they are far more likely to agree to an outcome that works for you. The book also teaches that you never want a yes too quickly. Most people think yes is the goal of negotiation. But Chris Voss argues the opposite. A fast yes is often fake. People say yes to escape pressure, avoid conflict, or end a conversation. A false yes creates future problems. Instead, you want no. No makes people feel safe. It gives them control. When someone says no, they relax because they feel defended. And from that place of safety, a real conversation begins. No is not rejection. No is the beginning of clarity. No is the doorway to understanding what they actually want. Once a person says no, they can start telling you the truth. Another key lesson: never split the difference. Splitting the difference means both people lose. It means you agree to something that neither person actually wants. This weakens trust. It creates resentment. It leads to poor outcomes. In high-stakes negotiation, splitting the difference is dangerous. In everyday life, splitting the difference often means you both settle for less than what you deserve. Never split the difference means aim for a solution that works fully, not halfway, not partially, not poorly. To do that, you must be creative. You must understand the other person deeply. You must find out what they value, what matters to them, and what they can give. When both people feel understood, a mutually beneficial agreement always exists. Another major principle is control of the tone. Chris Voss teaches the power of the late-night FM DJ voice, calm, slow, soothing. When you speak gently, slowly, and calmly, people feel grounded. Their nervous system relaxes. They stop defending themselves. They start engaging. Your voice can guide the emotional state of the entire conversation. The book also emphasizes the importance of refusing to rush. Negotiation is emotional. If you go too fast, people feel pressured. If they feel pressured, they resist. Slowing down allows people to feel secure. It gives them space to share the truth. Patience is not passive, it is strategic. Another essential skill is using silence. Silence makes people uncomfortable in the best way. After you ask a calibrated question, be silent. Let the other person fill the space. They will think more deeply. They will reveal more information. They will reflect. Silence is not a gap. Silence is a tool. Then the book introduces the idea of black swans. These are hidden pieces of information that can dramatically change a negotiation. You discover black swans by listening deeply, asking smart questions, noticing emotional details, and paying attention to what matters most to the other person. Black swans can be personal motivations, fears, deadlines, pressures, or desires that were never stated. When you discover a black swan, everything changes. Another powerful lesson from Never Split the Difference is the Ackerman model, a negotiation strategy that includes setting your target price, anchoring the conversation, making calculated concessions, and using empathy to drive the conversation toward your ideal outcome. This model shows that negotiation is not random. It is structured, it is intentional, it is mathematical and emotional at the same time. Perhaps the most transformative lesson from the book is that negotiation is not about talking, it is about listening, deep listening, strategic listening, listening with empathy, listening with intention, listening with curiosity. When you listen deeply, people naturally open up. They trust you. They cooperate. This is the opposite of old-school negotiation, which is aggressive, transactional, and forceful. Modern negotiation is human-centered. Negotiation is about connection, influence, understanding. It is about finding a path that works for both sides. It is about helping the other person feel seen, heard, and respected. When someone feels understood, they follow your lead. Chris Voss ends the book with a powerful message. Negotiation is a life skill, not a business skill, not a hostage skill, a life skill. When you learn to negotiate well, you become calmer. You become more confident. You become more grounded. Conflict becomes easier. Relationships become smoother. Money conversations become more empowering. And ultimately, you begin to move through life with clarity and strength. Negotiation is not manipulation. It is communication. It is clarity. It is emotional intelligence. It is learning how to understand people deeply. And when you master that, every area of your life transforms. This is what Never Split the Difference teaches us: to listen more, understand more, and negotiate our way to better outcomes with confidence, compassion, and strategy. Negotiation is not something you do only when money is involved. It is not something you use only in business deals or big decisions. Negotiation is something you use every single day, often without realizing it. When you talk to your partner about weekend plans, that is negotiation. When you discuss boundaries with family, that is negotiation. When you ask your boss for a raise, that is negotiation. When you talk to your kids, when you talk to clients, when you talk to strangers, when you talk to friends, every conversation is negotiation. And once you understand this, you begin to approach life differently. You become more intentional, more calm, more aware, more patient. You understand that human beings are emotional, reactive, sensitive, sometimes defensive, sometimes confused, and your job in negotiation is not to overpower them, but to guide the conversation so both people feel respected. This is why Chris Voss says, the most dangerous negotiation is the one you don't know you're in. Because if you are not paying attention, you may be negotiating without skill, without awareness, without emotional intelligence. You may react emotionally, speak impulsively, or give away power without meaning to. But when you negotiate consciously, you regain control. Let's go deeper into tactical empathy, because it is the foundation of all effective negotiation. Tactical empathy is not kindness, and it is not weakness. It is the ability to read emotion in real time, to recognize fear, to see tension, to understand frustration, and instead of reacting, you respond thoughtfully. Tactical empathy allows you to look at someone who is angry and think, they are scared, they feel unheard, they are protecting something. It allows you to look at someone who is defensive and think, they need safety and control. It allows you to look at someone who is stubborn and think, they feel pressured. When you name their emotion through labeling, it seems like this feels unfair. It sounds like this situation has been overwhelming. It looks like you are trying to protect something important. Their nervous system relaxes. Naming emotion reduces emotional charge. It makes people feel seen. Human beings crave acknowledgement more than agreement. They crave recognition more than solutions. When someone feels recognized, they open the door, and that is when negotiation can truly begin. Let's go deeper into mirroring, because mirroring is not simply repeating words. It is creating psychological safety. Mirroring communicates. I hear you. I understand you. I am not fighting you. I am here with you. When someone feels you are not their opponent, their walls drop. Their tone softens, their pace slows, their answers become longer, more real, more honest. Mirroring creates space, and space reveals truth. In negotiation, truth is power. Information is power. Clarity is power. When someone tells you what they want, why they want it, what they fear, and what they hope for you, understand their internal world. And once you understand their internal world, you understand how to guide the conversation. Let us talk about calibrated questions more deeply. Calibrated questions are magic because they shift the pressure of problem solving onto the other person. When you ask, "How am I supposed to do that?" you force the other person to consider your position. They begin to think about how to solve the situation in a way that works for both sides. Calibrated questions break tension. They interrupt aggressive behavior. They create pause. They create reflection. Calibrated questions are powerful because people rarely argue with their own ideas. When they become part of the solution, they commit to the solution. Never split the difference teaches another important principle, the 7-3-8-5-5 rule. Only 7% of communication is words, 38% is tone, and 55% is body language. This means most negotiation is not verbal. It is emotional. It is energetic. It is about presence. When you regulate your tone and remain calm, the other person begins to mirror your calmness. Your tone tells people whether they can trust you. Your tone tells people whether you are safe. Your tone tells people whether this conversation will escalate or resolve. A calm voice is a negotiation superpower. In the book, Chris Voss talks about using the late-night FM DJ voice, slow, gentle, even, smooth. This tone reduces fear. It quiets the other person's amygdala. It makes them feel grounded. It communicates, "I am not a threat. You can breathe. We will figure this out." Let's go deeper into the concept of no. No is freedom. No is clarity. No is truth. When someone is allowed to say no, they feel in control. And people who feel in control cooperate far more easily. Chris Voss teaches that you should not fear no. You should invite it. People say no because they want to feel protected. Once they feel protected, they start giving real answers. No, that won't work. No, that's not what I want. No, I'm not comfortable with that. These statements are not dead ends. They are beginnings. Because when someone says no, you can ask calibrated questions. What about it doesn't work? What are you trying to avoid? What would make this feel better? And now the real conversation begins. Let's talk about fairness. Fairness is one of the most emotional triggers in negotiation. When someone feels something is unfair, they shut down. They refuse to cooperate. They dig in their heels. This is why Chris Voss teaches you to use phrases like, "I want this to feel fair for you." The last thing I want is for you to feel taken advantage of. Tell me where this doesn't feel fair. These statements pull the other person out of a defensive state. They feel respected. And once they feel respected, the negotiation becomes collaborative instead of combative. Now let's explore the most fascinating part of the book Black Swans. Black swans are small pieces of hidden information that completely change the negotiation once discovered. A deadline, a hidden need, a fear, a pressure, a desire, a personal motivation. You uncover black swans by listening deeply, observing emotion, watching for hesitation, or noticing inconsistencies. A black swan can turn a difficult negotiation into a simple one. It can shift a never into a yes. It can turn a closed door into an open one. Black swans exist in every conversation. Most people never notice them because they are too busy trying to win. But your job is not to win, it is to understand. Because when you understand, you can influence. Let's go deeper into the Ackerman model, Chris Voss's structured negotiation system. You set your target price. You anchor low. You offer precise numbers. You use empathy at every step. You give small, controlled concessions. You always ask calibrated questions. This method is powerful because it combines logic and emotion. You approach negotiation with a plan, but you also approach it with emotional intelligence. And when logic and empathy work together, your influence becomes unstoppable. Now let's talk about the power of "that's right." In negotiation, you do not want to hear "you're right." "You're right" is fake agreement. It means, I want this conversation to end. But "that's right" means you understand me. "That's right" is genuine acceptance. "That's right" means you have captured their perspective accurately. "That's right" builds trust. "That's right" opens their mind. You get to "that's right" by listening deeply, summarizing their feelings, and labeling their emotions. When they say "that's right," they feel connected, they feel respected, and someone who feels respected becomes cooperative. Let's talk about illusion of control. People resist when they feel controlled, but people relax when they believe they are in control. Calibrated questions, no, invitations, and gentle tone all create the illusion of control. The other person feels like the leader, even though you are guiding the entire negotiation. This is why the best negotiators look calm. They let the other person talk. They let them feel in charge. Meanwhile, they are crafting the direction of the conversation. Let's bring this into everyday life. You are negotiating when your partner says, "We never spend time together." Using tactical empathy, you might respond, "It seems like you've been feeling disconnected." Now the tension drops. The emotional truth comes forward. From there you can ask, "What would help us feel closer?" Suddenly, you are cooperating instead of arguing. You are negotiating when your boss gives you more work than you can handle. Instead of saying yes out of pressure, you can use a calibrated question. How can I prioritize this without compromising the quality of my other tasks? Now, they must solve the problem with you. They feel respected. You stay in control. You are negotiating when someone tries to rush you into a decision. You can use the FM DJ voice and say, "It seems like there's urgency here." Then stay silent. Let them explain. You will learn the black swan. You are negotiating when a customer says your price is too high. You do not defend. You do not justify. You simply ask, "What about the price feels too high for you?" Now you understand what they truly fear. This book teaches emotional mastery. It teaches communication that lowers defensiveness. It teaches you how to hold power without aggression, clarity without force, confidence without pressure. Chris Voss says, "Negotiation is not a battle. It is a conversation guided by empathy, strategy, and emotional intelligence." This is true in business, relationships, friendships, and daily life. Let's go deeper into something profound. Negotiation begins with regulating your own emotional state. You cannot influence others when you are overwhelmed. You cannot listen deeply when you are defensive. You cannot ask calibrated questions when you are triggered. You cannot guide the conversation when your nervous system is dysregulated. The first negotiation you ever learn is negotiating with your own emotions. If you can calm yourself, you can calm others. If you can understand yourself, you can understand others. If you can regulate your tone, you can regulate the room. This is why self-awareness is such a powerful negotiation skill. Let's talk about ego. Ego destroys negotiation. Ego pushes, ego demands, ego reacts. Ego needs to win. Ego wants to be right. But negotiation is never about who is right. It is about what works. When you let go of ego, you gain influence. When you let go of needing to win, you begin to win more often. When you let go of forcing outcomes, better outcomes appear. The goal of negotiation is not to dominate. The goal is connection. Because connection creates cooperation. Cooperation creates solutions. Solutions create success. Let's talk about intuition. Chris Voss teaches that great negotiators are highly intuitive. They notice tone changes, they notice tension, they notice hesitations. They notice micro-emotions. They notice when someone is holding back truth. They feel the energy shift before they hear the words. Negotiation is pattern recognition. When you have seen enough human behavior, you can sense what someone needs before they say it. Intuition grows through practice. Every conversation trains you. Every conflict strengthens you. Every negotiation increases your emotional fluency. Let's talk now about confidence. Confidence in negotiation does not come from being loud. Confidence comes from calmness, from clarity, from patience, from the ability to sit in silence, from the ability to let someone speak without interrupting, from the ability to stay grounded even when things get tense. Calm people lead. Calm people influence. Calm people persuade. Calm people win without fighting. Let's talk about flexibility. Negotiation requires adaptability. You cannot predict every turn. You cannot control everything. You cannot script every word. But you can prepare your mindset. You can prepare your tone. You can prepare your presence. You can prepare your strategy. And from that grounded place, you can adapt to whatever the conversation brings. Flexibility is strength. Rigidity is weakness. The book teaches you to stay curious. Curiosity is the opposite of defensiveness. Curiosity asks questions. Curiosity seeks clarity. Curiosity notices details. Curiosity opens doors. Curiosity also lowers emotional charge, because when you stay curious, you are not reactive. Let's move into real-world scenarios. Imagine negotiating a raise. Instead of saying, "I deserve more money," you say, "What would it take to move my position into the next pay range?" This forces your employer to reveal the real criteria. Now you know exactly what to aim for. Imagine negotiating a price for something you want to buy. Instead of saying, "That's too expensive," you ask, "What flexibility do you have on the price?" Or, "How can we make this work for both of us?" Now, the seller must think creatively. Imagine negotiating with a client who keeps expanding the scope. You use labeling. It sounds like this project has grown bigger than we originally planned. Then you ask a calibrated question. What should we adjust so the work stays fair for both of us? Now you reclaim boundaries. Imagine negotiating with a person who is angry. You do not match their tone. You slow down. Lower your voice. Say, "It seems like this situation has been difficult for you." Let them release pressure. When they calm, then you negotiate. These strategies make life easier, smoother, and less stressful. Let us go deeper into presence. Negotiation is not about what you say. It is about who you are when you say it. Your presence communicates safety. Your presence communicates strength. Your presence communicates confidence. Your presence communicates passions. People respond to your energy before they respond to your words. Chris Voss teaches that negotiation is a dance, not a fight, not a race. A dance of understanding, a dance of listening, a dance of emotion, a dance of subtle influence. And every dance begins with connection. Let's talk about preparation. You do not walk into negotiation unprepared. You think ahead. You know what you want. You know your boundaries. You know your target. You know your walk-away point. You know your needs. You know your values. You know what matters most. Preparation gives you confidence. Preparation gives you clarity. Preparation protects you from being manipulated. Let's reflect on the biggest mistake people make in negotiation: talking too much. People talk because they are uncomfortable. They talk because they feel insecure. They talk because silence scares them. But talking too much reveals too much. It gives away leverage. It shifts power. The best negotiators talk less and listen more. Let's talk now about the subconscious level of negotiation. Human beings want three things: to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel respected. If you give someone those three things, they will follow your lead. They will trust you. They will cooperate. Safety is created through tone. Being seen is created through empathy. Respect is created through listening. Once these three needs are met, negotiation flows naturally. Let's talk about deadlines. Deadlines are emotional triggers. People make rushed decisions when they feel pressured. But smart negotiators question deadlines. Often, deadlines are soft, flexible, negotiable. The moment you challenge the deadline, you create space. Let's talk about anchoring. Anchoring is setting the first number in a negotiation. The first number subconsciously frames the entire conversation. This is why Chris Voss teaches you to anchor low if you are buying and anchor high if you are selling. Anchoring influences how people perceive value. Anchoring shapes expectations. Anchoring creates psychological leverage. Let's talk about specifics. Chris Voss explains that precise numbers work better than round numbers. For example, not "I can do it for 10,000, but "I can do it for 9,475. Precise numbers sound researched. Round numbers sound random. Precise numbers signal seriousness. People trust precision. Now let's explore emotional intelligence. Negotiation is emotional intelligence in action. You must read the situation. Adjust your tone. Adjust your questions. Adjust your pace. Adjust your strategy. Because every conversation is alive. Every conversation is fluid. And your awareness shapes the outcome. Let's talk about power. Real power in negotiation does not come from force. Real power comes from patience, from silence, from confidence, from self-control, from empathy, from strategy. You do not overpower people into agreement. You guide them into agreement. Now let's reflect deeper on the principle behind the title, Never Split the Difference. Splitting the difference is lazy. It is a shortcut. It means lowering the standard of the outcome. It means settling instead of solving. It means creating a weak agreement that satisfies no one. Never split the difference because you can always do better. There is always a better solution. There is always a creative option. There is always a deeper truth. There is always a way to get full value. Let's go into inner psychology now. You cannot negotiate external outcomes while ignoring internal patterns. If you fear conflict, you must confront that fear. If you hate disappointment, you must learn resilience. If you avoid difficult conversations, you must learn courage. If you crave approval, you must learn self-validation. Negotiation forces you to grow. It makes you stronger, more grounded, more emotionally stable, more confident. Negotiation is a mirror. It shows you who you are. It reveals your habits. It reveals your insecurities. It reveals your strengths. And when you see yourself clearly, you grow. Let's reflect on presence one more time. Presence is quiet power. Presence is influence. Presence is confidence without words. Presence communicates. I am grounded. I am steady. You can trust me. We will figure this out. People follow presence. Now, imagine yourself becoming the kind of person who negotiates with ease. Calm voice, slow breath, soft tone, curious questions, deep listening, strong boundaries, steady energy, clear intentions. Imagine walking into conversations with confidence. Imagine guiding the direction without force. Imagine ending conversations feeling respected and respectful. Imagine getting outcomes that feel good for everyone. This is what negotiation mastery offers you. It helps you build better relationships. It helps you communicate clearly. It helps you avoid unnecessary conflict. It helps you create solutions. It helps you become respected. It helps you become persuasive. It helps you become powerful. Never Split the Difference is more than a book about negotiation. It is a book about human connection. It is a book about emotional intelligence. It is a book about communication. It is a book about strategy. It is a book about self-awareness. It teaches you that conversations do not need to be battles. They can be collaborations. They can be opportunities for understanding. They can be moments of transformation. Now imagine the next difficult conversation you have. Imagine using your calm voice. Imagine listening deeply. Imagine labeling emotions. Imagine asking calibrated questions. Imagine uncovering black swans. Imagine guiding the conversation gently. Imagine both people walking away satisfied. This is the power these tools give you. Negotiation is part science, part art, part psychology, part intuition. And when you bring them all together, you become someone who moves through life with clarity, influence, and confidence. You do not force outcomes. You create them through connection. You create them through awareness. You create them through emotional mastery. You create them through strategy. Never split the difference. That is true influence. That is true leadership. That is true communication. And that is the gift of Never Split the Difference. End of the audiobook. Empower Audio.